Let's now begin this bulletin by bringing you updates from the controversial US election. Now, 3 days since the US election wrapped up and there is still no president. Now, the outcome of the US presidential election hangs in the balance for now. Team Trump is demanding to stop the vote count. On the other hand, Team Biden says to count every vote and that every single vote matters. The anticipation and anxiety is at an all-time high in the face of political turmoil in the country. But election is a game of numbers. So let's get you a sense of where the numbers stand. According to the Associated Press, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has 264 electoral college votes, while President Donald Trump has about 240. Now, the key to remember here is that 270 happens to be the magic number. That is the number of electoral college votes needed for a candidate to claim the presidency. Now, these numbers are likely to change as 5 crucial battleground states are still counting votes. Let's first talk about the state of Arizona, which is also a crucial state. Now, in the state, as we can see from these visuals, Biden is leading with 50.4% of the votes, while Trump lags by a short margin at 48.3% of the votes. The state of Arizona has 11 electoral votes to offer. Now, let's move on. These numbers are from the Associated Press, which has called Arizona for Joe Biden. And the initial trends showed that Biden was in the lead, but Donald Trump redeemed himself in the state, making the competition almost neck and neck. And if Joe Biden manages to win Arizona, he will become the first Democratic presidential nominee since the year 1996 to do so. However, it is still too soon to reach any conclusion yet, since some key states are still counting votes. The state had 400,000 uncounted votes as on Thursday afternoon, so we will have to wait to get to know who gets the crucial state of Arizona. Let's now move on to the state of Georgia, which is another crucial state with 16 electoral votes to offer. Here, as we can see, President Trump is yet up by 49.4% of the votes, while Biden is just lagging by a very, very small margin at 49.3% of the votes. This is again a crucial state. Donald Trump leads with only 49.4% of the votes. Yet again, this is a razor-thin margin. And this is why we have been saying for the last few days that it's a very tight race to the White House. Now, it is indeed a tight race in Georgia as well, and one that we will, of course, be closely observing. And let's now move to the next crucial state, which is Nevada. Now, pollsters have made a strong suggestion here, which is that Donald Trump is lagging at 48.5% of the votes, while Biden is leading with 49.4% of the votes. And pollsters have already given Arizona to Joe Biden, and they say that he only needs to win Nevada, a crucial state, to take the White House. This is because Biden needs as many electoral college votes as Nevada has to offer, which, as we can see, is 6 electoral votes. 6 electoral votes to the magic figure of 270, which is what each candidate needs to win the White House. Now, the state has yet to count 11% of the votes. Moving on now to another crucial state, which happens to be North Carolina, where we have 15 electoral votes which are up for grabs, and the two candidates held back-to-back election rallies, and the state is extremely important as it has 15 electoral college votes. And Trump here, yet again, is leading by 50.1% of the votes, while Biden is at 48.7%. So Trump seems to be leading over here. Now, North Carolina allows mail-in ballots postmarked by the election day to be counted if they are received by November 12th. The election officials in the state say that the result will not be known until next week. So we have to wait and watch. It is a game of patience here, and 5% of votes are yet to be counted, so no winner can actually be declared. Moving on to the next state, let's take a look at the Keystone State, which happens to be Pennsylvania, which has 20 electoral votes to offer, which is extremely crucial for victory here. Now, both sides consider the state to be their stronghold and have been rallying since campaigning began. And at this point, Trump is leading by 1% votes, while the state is yet to count about 370,000 ballots. Here, he has a lead. President Trump has a lead with 49.9% of the votes, while Biden is lagging by a short margin at 48.9%. Now, remember, Pennsylvania accepted mail-in ballots up to 3 days after November 3rd if they were postmarked. The mail-in ballots process is extremely technical, and we have seen an unprecedented voter turnout this year despite a public health emergency in the United States. And numbers are likely to change in Pennsylvania as well. So yet again, it's a game of patience. Now, the battle has come down to 5 key battleground states, and those are, as we just told you, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona and Nevada. And we, of course, will be closely watching the polling trends and the results. Now, for more insights into the US election, Reena Shah, political advisor and commentator and former Republican strategist, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Welcome, Reena, and thanks so much for joining us. Now, this election is turning out to be a complete nail-biter. Donald Trump has yet again made some huge unfounded claims. Earlier, he declared premature victory. Now he says that he will only consider what he calls the legal votes. And according to them, he has already won. So tell us more. What is the US president seeking to gain from these tactics?
Well, he's seeking to gain a second term, bluntly put. I mean, that is what he knows is on the line here, and he badly wants it. So what he's doing is pulling out all the stops. He's trying everything he can to really see to it that this election is called for him. He wants electors to essentially be faithless and to go for him. These electors are in Republican state legislators. And this is a very complicated portion of our system here. The Electoral College doesn't make sense to many folks. And look, Democrats have been calling for the abolishment of the Electoral College for a few years now, actually many years, but particularly these past 4 years, because of scenarios like this. Joe Biden is even more ahead than Hillary Clinton was when she beat Donald Trump in the popular vote. She beat Donald Trump by 3 million popular votes. She had 3 million more popular votes than him. Joe Biden has exceeded that. In fact, Joe Biden actually has another record he's broken. He's beat Obama's record of having the most number of votes cast for any presidential candidate in U.S. history. To date, he has over 72 million votes. But what it's come down to is this magic number of 270, and neither gentleman is there yet. So the election night has turned into election week. And what we are in right now is a moment that one would really call the knowable but not callable moment. And that's really a moment where we're looking at the math and we're saying there are paths for Joe Biden here. Let's make no mistake. Joe Biden has a few paths, as you were detailing, going state by state. Donald Trump really only has one pathway. He must win Pennsylvania and Georgia. Without both of those, it becomes impossible for him. That's just the simple math at this point. Pennsylvania in particular is so very important because it holds 20 electoral college votes in just one state. So that would really be that chef's kiss that Donald Trump would need to become really more competitive at this point. At this point, he's not looking really good, but it's still possible for him to win. At this very hour in the U.S. also, Biden's trajectory is towards catching the president in Georgia as well. So all eyes are really on Georgia as well as Pennsylvania. But Nevada also matters.
Right. Now, Reena, tell us a little bit about what's the mood like in the Republican camp right now. Joe Biden clearly has a lead. And what are your predictions as of now?
Well, as of this evening, the president addressed the nation from the White House briefing press room, and it was an unusual 15 minutes at the podium. In fact, I would say it was the most startling of his entire 4 years. What he launched into was a completely vicious attack on American democracy. It was one that was filled with lies, and all he did was spread baseless claims. It was actually very disturbing, and there are longtime Republicans calling it extremely dangerous. I personally feel the same way, and I believe this is the moment in which our leaders should look to invoke the 25th Amendment, which essentially puts the vice president in power if the president is incapacitated. I think this is important to talk about because that has actually really led to a lot of frustration tonight amongst elected Republicans, particularly at the federal level. Some of them are calling out people like Congressman Kinzinger from the state of Illinois. He's absolutely frustrated with the president. He expressed in a tweet, he's saying, let all the votes be counted. Let the ballots that were legally cast be counted. Right. You should not be talking like this at this point. It's extremely dangerous. So what we see tonight is a very, very scary moment for our democracy when the president comes out and doesn't show any evidence of illegality, of fraud. He's in fact been contradicting himself, saying that the vote count should stop in certain states and continue in other states and be recounted in a state like Wisconsin.
Right.
I am very worried that the president is incapacitated, and I hope our leaders take this seriously, because Inauguration Day is January 20th of next year.
Right.
Based on whenever we get the election outcome, which looks like soon, I think that time between Joe Biden likely being called the winner of this race and Inauguration Day, I think this is the era in which we have to be the most scared of Donald Trump.
Right, right. Very well said. Reena, now my next question is, despite a public health emergency, America has seen an unprecedented voter turnout this year. What does this say about the American mindset in a very crucial election year? And what are some of the factors that could have swayed Americans to say vote differently?
Well, number one, the turnout really shows that Americans have woken up to their responsibility. We've had such startling figures here in our democracy. It's a beautiful thing to be able to vote here. I myself am the daughter of somebody from India, and I really feel it's an incredible privilege and an honor to have an Indian heritage. But I also love America so much. I was born on U.S. soil, and my parents always instilled in me how important it is to participate civically. And so I'm really glad that people have woken up, particularly folks in my age demographic between 25 and 39, millennials. 40% of us were what made up non-voters in the last presidential election. So this turnout is very good. It shows that the electorate understands what's on the line, understands the duty and the responsibility of voting, especially every 4 years. Look, we have other elections every couple of years, but this was so important because we have somebody at the highest office in the land who routinely lies. We've never seen this in modern American history, anybody at this level spreading such false calling into question everything, which is good, which is democratic, which is actually American. I applaud that Donald Trump encourages folks to question institutions and norms. However, the way he's gone about it and what he's said is just so absolutely, it just is outrageous to the point where lives are now on the line because he's denied science, particularly health science. And we've always known he's denied environmental, climate change, that kind of science. But the fact that he's saying that doctors are lining their pockets by making COVID diagnosis. I'm married to a physician. I find that incredibly offensive. But the vast majority of Americans out there, have a sense that, look, we should listen to our leaders. So what we see today from the outcome of Election Day just a couple of days ago is that there's a sizable percentage of this country that does side with Donald Trump. Our country is going to have to confront that.
Absolutely. Reena, my final question for you as we wrap up this discussion. Now, social media platforms have been flagging Trump campaign tweets for a while now for spreading misinformation, and recently it banned a few groups that were inciting violence. So the big question remains, no matter who takes the White House, does America expect violence on the streets once the results come out?
Without a doubt, we have been bracing ourselves for that. If you look in most urban areas, like the one I live in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and if you go downtown D.C., you'll see boarded up businesses, and it's a very, very sad sight to see. And this is happening in big cities across the country because of the civil unrest we saw earlier this year during the Black Lives Matter protests. And look, peaceful demonstration is a cornerstone of American democracy. It's an incredible thing to take to the street and to peacefully voice your concern and your opinions. Our First Amendment protects that right. However, there are bad actors in every sort of demonstration and protest, looters, arsonists. And what happened is that Republicans started to characterize these protests that happened many months ago, earlier this year and into the summer. They started to say that everybody on the left is bad. All of them are looters and arsonists. That is absolutely illogical and nonsensical, and there's no evidence to back that up. And they went so far as to say that Joe Biden was paying the bail money of getting these looters and arsonists out of jail. So we have come to a moment where the country is completely divided, and we see it. So these businesses, these cities, everybody's been getting ready for this violence because we know that on a regular basis, this president and his children, particularly this week, have been inciting violence. Even if you look back a few weeks ago at the presidential debate between Trump and Biden, Trump actually told the Proud Boys, a known hate group, to stand back and stand by. Those are words that tell them with a wink and a nod that I'll let you know when it's time. Extremely disturbing, extremely unsettling, and I certainly hope that there is not any violence, but we've already seen some demonstrations in states like Arizona happening, and it's been unnerving. So I just pray that there's no more of that, and I hope all of it is peaceful.
Absolutely, Reena, that is the hope, and thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast, and thank you for all your insights. We'll be closely tracking the results here at WION.